we're recording. Yay! Yay! Hello, this is Cristina Lorefice here, and today I am Zooming with Susannah Birch. Thank you, Susannah, for joining me all the way from Australia.
Thanks for having me, Cristina. I'm excited to have a chat with you.
Yeah, I'm excited to find out all about you. It sounds like your life has been very full. So
Yes.
before we start, we have 15 minutes. And, you know, sometimes I go above that 15 minutes when stuff gets really juicy and interesting. I forget all about this. Susannah Birch. Susannah, you're a survivor of family violence and also a survivor of catfishing, and as well as having lived with a mom that suffered from bipolar. So there is a lot there to explore and unpack. And so perhaps we go one step at a time. My first question would be about the catfishing experience. Since we are living in a very digital world today, it's especially lately with the coronavirus and all this pandemic, everybody's online. Do you feel that there is more risk today with catfishing?
I think there's a lot more risk today because people think that it's harder to fool someone because they go, oh, these days you can video chat with someone, but just because you can see someone on video doesn't mean they're not catfishing you. They could be lying about so many different things. They could be lying about their location, their marital status, their finances, their medical or criminal history. Not to mention, you can actually fake videos these days. So people feel like they're safer, but in reality, they aren't.
Wow. So what do you suggest we do to protect ourselves from being catfished?
Well, I was catfished for 12 years, and the biggest issue for me was I assumed that if the person didn't ask me for money, they weren't trying to trick me. Like, why would someone talk to you for that long if they didn't want to get something from you? And looking back, some of the biggest warning signs were that my catfish tried to gaslight me. And whenever I'd said, oh, can you tell me, where you work? Or can you come visit me? Or can you, send me photos of your family? He would say, don't you trust me? And make it all about my fault and make it my fault for questioning him. So if someone is very vague about information and makes you feel bad for asking questions, I think that's a huge sign. But another important thing to keep in mind is that most people have a real digital footprint these days. So most people have a Facebook account where they've got their friends and family on there. And most people have been featured in a local newspaper, or they've got a profile on their work website, something like that. So if someone doesn't have a digital footprint, start asking questions.
So that's very important, to be able to track their digital footprints, so to say.
Definitely.
How did it leave you after? I mean, that's 12 years is a long time. How did that leave you, feeling wise?
Well, we dated for 3 years online. So I met him when I was 15 and he said he was 17. In reality, he was actually 50 and he was using his own teenage son's photos to trick me. But we broke up when I was 18 because he proposed marriage and then he broke up with me again. And I said, that's enough. We can be friends, but that's all. So we were friends for another 9 years. And when I found out his true identity, I felt relief because all these years I'd said, is something wrong with me? But in reality, when I found out the true reason he'd been lying, I went, it's not about me at all. It's all about him and his insecurities and issues that made him lie about his entire identity.
So it was relief.
Yeah.
Yeah. Wow, I feel like exhaling. Because 12 years, it's a long time.
Yeah. Well, I've been married for 13 years now to a real man. So, yeah, it is a long time.
Yeah, yeah. And so going back to your experience with your mom living with somebody who has bipolar, how did you manage that?
So, the biggest incident that everyone talks about is when I was 2.5 years old, my mother cut my throat with a knife, and I had a tracheostomy tube placed in my throat because I nearly died, and I had that in my throat for 11 years. So, because of that, I was homeschooled by my mother for my entire primary schooling. So, a year after it happened, I was returned to her care, and she was like a normal mother to me. And the weird thing is, people go, weren't you scared of her, or didn't you think it was strange as a child? But as a child, I managed to think of her as two different people. I thought of her as the person who I saw when she had breakdowns, and then I also thought of her as the nice person who taught me how to cook and how to sew and how to read. So I guess I differentiated the two very clearly in my mind as a child. And it wasn't until I was a teenager that I started to question the view of her I actually had.
What did you start to question? I didn't hear that.
So I began to question my view of her when I was a teenager, but as a child, my brain just thought of her as two separate people.
So that was your coping mechanism as a child.
I guess so.
And so you're writing a book about this, right?
Yes, so I'm editing a book actually. I wrote the book. The editing part is a lot harder. So, yes.
How long did it take you to write a book?
Oh, I wrote the first 30,000 words in 2 weeks, and then after that, the rest took maybe another 2 months. So I find writing very easy. I can write 5,000 words a day. I just hate going back and fixing it.
Yeah, amazing. And when is it coming out?
Good question. Yes, I've been talking to my literary agent for like 2-3 years now. So I'm working on it. I also have some other projects aligned with that I'm working on with other people. So
Fantastic. And with regards to living with a mother who had bipolar, how has it affected you later on in life?
So I guess for me, especially as a teenager, I assumed that anyone who had a psychotic illness was a bad person and was going to hurt me. So I had a lot of misconceptions about mental illness. And then when I was around 21, I got a job with someone who had bipolar, and we became good friends. And I realized that there are different types of mental illness, and it's not just the mental illness that causes you to be a self-centered person and a manipulative person. There can be multiple issues going on. So my mother had other issues going on, not just bipolar, which made her quite manipulative and difficult to get on with, which is why I no longer have contact with her. But I guess as I grew older, I realized that the world wasn't as black and white.
What would you suggest to people who have family members that suffer from bipolar, and specifically in this time when we are kind of forced to be in the house with people who may not always be mentally healthy, mentally stable? What's your suggestion there?
I think a big thing for my family and my dad, who I'm very close to, is the doctors didn't let us be involved in her treatment. And I think it's really important for family members to be treated as a family unit with mental illness and not be treated just on their own. So if there's a way for you to be involved in their mental health care, I think that makes it a lot easier for everyone and easier for everyone to understand on both sides. And I think it's also important to be aware that you're not their carer all the time. You're allowed to take a break as well. If there are issues, it's not your fault. You also have to go, they're responsible in some ways for their care as well. Don't take all that guilt on yourself.
I love that. That's so important. Such an important reminder that we also have our lives and that we have to also take care of our own self when we live with somebody who is suffering from mental health issues.
Definitely. And I don't have bipolar or anything like that, but I have suffered anxiety and depression, and I'm not always easy to live with either. And I don't think, even those of us who think we're pretty sane, I don't think any of us are easy to live with 100% of the time.
I love that. Susannah, say that again.
I think no matter how sane many of us think we are, I don't think anyone is easy to live with 100% of the time.
We all have our quirks.
Definitely.
Nobody's perfect. Hallelujah. It's so refreshing to hear that, you know.
Well, my husband has to put up with me, so.
At the moment, my daughter has to put up with me. I'm in London with her, and I'm thinking, oh my God, you know, she has to put up with me, and it's a small apartment. We're doing pretty good, so.
All family members, we're learning a lot about each other.
Oh yeah, oh yeah. I think those are the biggest lessons. Our family members are the ones that really help our growth, and they force us to look at the mirror and ask ourselves, well, what is it about me in this situation, or you know, in this, with this issue?
Definitely.
Yeah. When you were little, a child, and you lived with your mom who was bipolar person, who was suffering from bipolar, do you feel that she robbed you from your joy, your playfulness, your laughter, your humor?
I had this conversation with my psychologist, you know, and I said to her, I thought I had a really happy childhood because my mother was always inside on the phone or doing her own thing. And so I used to spend hours outside by myself, and I could read books for hours. I could play on the swing in my cubby house. And I did all these things alone, and I really enjoyed it. And my psychologist said to me, maybe you didn't enjoy your childhood, you enjoyed the absence of bad things.
Interesting.
So she said people would look at that and they would go, that isn't a good childhood, but you enjoyed the fact that the manipulation and the issues you faced and the social difficulties in your family weren't there, so you enjoyed being alone and doing your own thing.
Yeah.
But I guess I enjoyed my childhood. I liked it, just I wasn't very social.
Sounds like you made the best of it out of the situation.
Yeah, well, I'm lucky because as a homeschool child, I got lots of hours to do things by myself. And so I got addicted to books. I'd just read continuously, sometimes 12 hours a day, read everything I could get my hands on. So I still love learning things.
What brings you joy?
Oh, I'm a polymath, so anything that's new I have bright, shining object syndrome. I'm always studying something completely different. I never have a job in the same industry twice. I just like learning new things and trying new things. So joy is about doing things I haven't done before.
I love it. Joy is about doing things that you haven't done before. Yay! Have you ever done, or have you ever practiced laughter yoga, or also known as Hasya Yoga?
No, I haven't. I've never even done yoga.
Well, it's called yoga, but yoga is a term that means in union with, in balance with. So laughter yoga would mean being in balance with your laughter, with your inner child laughter. And it involves voluntary laughter. So you would laugh as if you were going to the gym. It's not you're laughing, I know. You're not gonna laugh because I'm gonna tell you a joke. You're gonna laugh just as a pure exercise, just to exercise those laughter muscles. And so when we laugh intentionally, we create a sense of well-being because all of those wonderful happy hormones are released into our bloodstream. And then the brain doesn't understand the difference. It's like, what's going on here? Oh, all right, you're laughing. Do you want to try a little laughter yoga exercise?
I'm up for something new.
I know, I knew that. That's what I'm asking. Well, I said, she's up for something new. We're going to do then a little joyful breathing. I do this a lot because it's very simple. And then you get an experience of what it means to do intentional or voluntary laughter. So we're going to breathe in nice and deep. And then we're going to exhale through the sound of laughter. Ha, ha. You did it.
Okay, I'm out of breath now.
Yes, it really creates that, that physiological change. You start to, work your abdominals and the blood starts to flow better, more oxygen. So it really creates some physical and emotional changes in a very short time. And
So does that mean if I laugh, I don't have to go to the gym?
you could say so. You could just sit on the park bench, laugh at those joggers.
Ooh, see, I like that idea.
Well, there's a lot of research is done on this type of methodology, and it's used for a lot of people who are disabled, and cannot exercise. And so in order to bring some type of physical activity, they practice laughter yoga because you can do it whilst you're sitting down, and it involves some playfulness and some joyful breathing and some little exercises, laughter yoga exercises. And it brings that change,
Well, my husband already looks at me strangely when I'm sitting on the computer talking to myself. So if I start laughing all the time, he's not going to know what to say.
That's funny. Oh, wonderful. Well, guess what, Susannah?
What?
We did it. Yay! We did it.
See, I achieved something today.
Absolutely. So did I. Connected with somebody wonderful, and that brings me a lot of joy. I'm trying to bring together inspirational messages. So what would your nugget of wisdom be for the world today?
Ooh, Now you're really putting me on the spot, aren't you, Cristina?
I don't mean to.
I guess my nugget of wisdom for today would be, don't treat healing as a place you have to get to. Treat healing as something that is triggered by life events. And you're never going to be able to heal instantly. You're going to heal as things happen to you, whether that's a birthday, whether that's the birth of a child, whether that's a new job or moving house, or having an experience which reminds you of your past. Healing is about learning coping mechanisms, and that changes over time.
Yes, I love it. Thank you so much, Suzanne. That was beautiful. Beautifully said.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye, and thank you so much for being with me here today on Zooming With.
Thank you for having me. I enjoyed our chat and our laugh.
Yes, absolutely. And where can we find you?
You can find me under Susannah Birch on basically every social media platform because I'm addicted to social media, or at susannahbirch.com.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Suzanne.
Thanks, Cristina.
Bye. Bye. Hold on. Bye. Bye. I hope you enjoyed this, and please like and subscribe, and see you soon.